Okay, I believe you guys can chat now. Go ahead and type something into the chat so I can see if it is working. Morgan Freeman's on. That's awesome. Can't believe he's watching. Oh, it's Keegan. I thought it was Morgan Freeman. It's Morgan Freeman in disguise as Keegan. Okay. About to go live on Instagram. It's Mr. Morgan Freeman. Whoops. Sure, he's probably got a doctorate or something too. Dr. Morgan Freeman. Okay. All right, we're live on Instagram and YouTube. Sweet. What's up, guys? Riley has joined. We'll give it a minute. Let everyone kind of get on. Get ready. We got some on Instagram, some on YouTube. Okay. Cool. We'll give it a little bit till everyone gets on. So, let's see. What's a movie that you guys have watched in the past couple days? What's like the best movie you guys have watched in the past couple days? Go ahead and type that sucker in. Jason's on. Kaylee's on. Cam has watched his favorite movie he's watched in the last couple of days is American Sniper. That's a solid one, man. That is a good one. Sawyer said Jumanji 2. I haven't seen the new one. It must be? I've heard it's pretty good. I'll have to watch it. I love the first one. That was really good, and the original one's good too. And then Keegan on YouTube said that Toy Story 4 is better than expected. I love Toy Story. I grew up on Toy Story, so Toy Story 4 that was a tearjerker. It was pretty sad there at the end. If you're joining on, what is your favorite movie that you guys have watched in the last couple of days? Since we've been stuck inside, nothing but movies and everything. Kaylee says Frozen 2. Frozen 2. I haven't seen that one either, but I've heard the songs a lot. The songs are pretty catchy. Owen's on. What's up, Owen? All right, we'll give it probably another minute. We'll check and see who all is going to join on. While everyone is still kind of joining on, we'll go through what is your highs and lows of the week? What have been the highs and lows of this past week? For me, I would say the high of this week was getting to be outside. There was some really good weather this past week, and so it was really nice being able to go out and ride my bike, just be out in the sun instead of just being in the rain all the time. So definitely my high was being able to go outside and enjoy the weather. And then the low Low of the week was probably I don't know. I guess I didn't have too many lows other than everything shutting down, so that kind of stunk. Hi, Cam said that they made a homemade pickleball court and they were playing. I saw that. Man, I was jealous. I saw that your dad he showed me a picture. You guys created the pickleball court, and I really wanted to come play. So yeah, that's awesome. And then Cam says low is losing a credit card. Dang, that's no fun. That's no fun. I'm sorry that happened. And then let's see. Morgan Freeman, aka Keegan, said his high was he figured out how to keep a consistent workout routine and get schoolwork done. Yeah, that's important. You're not able to do the American Ninja Warrior course anymore, so that kind of stinks. But didn't you say that you figured out how to like create some stuff at your house or something like that? The low was the amount of schoolwork is ridiculous. Yep. I'm sure that they're probably just bombarding you guys with a bunch of work right now while being at home. And then, okay, on Instagram, let's see. Oh, yeah. Keegan said he's made some workout stuff out of chains, water jugs, and cardio. There you go. Oh, nice. Okay. Yeah, you get some milk jugs on the umbrella pole. Kenzie says her high is the sunshine, the good weather. Yeah, same here. And then low again, dealing with some personal stuff that always kind of stinks, and I get that. Kaylee's high was the beautiful days. Yep, again. And then low was her truck's broken. Oh no, what happened to your truck, Kaylee? Kyle's high was finding a free Halo Combat evolved on the internet and started drive. Wait, I don't. Finding a free combat evolved on the internet and started driving. And started driving. Okay, two different things. Gotcha. Okay, yeah. That's nice. And then homework is the low. That seems like it's pretty much everyone's low as well. Abby's high is the weather and being outside. Yep. And the low is the tennis courts being closed. Yeah, I got a lot of people playing tennis, and sadly, I don't know. Well, you should be able to play outside, shouldn't you? Because I mean, the virus can't really do anything outside. So, but I guess school is kind of shutting everything down. Kaylee's truck overheated. Oh no, that's not good. Kyle says the combat involved is a game. Okay, gotcha. I was a little confused there for a minute. Gotcha. Okay. So, and Sawyer says tennis courts being closed is a low. Yep. Sounds like it's a low for about everyone, and the weather. The homework is another low. They taped off the courts. See, that really stinks. Wow. Huh. Man. I'm sorry, guys. That stinks. You'll have to hit the tennis ball against the garage or something like that. Kyle, Cam, are you gonna hop more fences? Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, so we'll move on to the next question. What has been your lifesaver while being stuck at home? What's something that you could not live without while being quarantined at home? What's the thing that you've probably been doing the most of, or what's your go-to when you're stuck inside? We'll see. Let's see what you guys have for that. Oh, and Owen says his tennis courts are still open. Okay. For me, I would say my lifesaver is probably my PlayStation, because I can play video games, or I can watch Netflix and stuff like that, Hulu, and I can talk to my friends through it. And so yeah, I'd probably say that for me. Let's see. Brick Owl. I can't tell who Brick Owl is. On YouTube says the internet. Yeah, that's pretty big in this time. Definitely a lifesaver. And then Morgan Freeman, aka Keegan, says chocolate milk. Yeah, chocolate milk. I'm more of a white milk guy. I'm sorry, but yeah. Oh, okay. It's Gabe is the Brick Owl. Okay, Gabe says internet. Yep, that's definitely a lifesaver. And then let's see on Instagram, we have Owen says Xbox is a lifesaver. I'm with you there. You got to have a game system where you can play, watch Netflix or whatever. You can do lots of stuff on it. And then I can't see who is McMuffin Meg. I can't see that right now. But she says food. And then Kyle, food, art, friends, video games, no particular order. Are you have you been drawing a lot, Kyle? What have you been drawing? And then Abby and Kenzie both say Netflix. Definitely a big lifesaver. The Tiger King has kept so many people entertained across the country in this time. Oh, Megan. Okay, cool. So Megan says food. Okay, definitely. I mean, we all gotta have it. Carson just joined, and then Cam says books, movie, and talking to family. Yeah, definitely having that family time is really important around this time because when you're just stuck inside and you can't go see friends, family is awesome. Let's see. And then Cam, what book are you on right now? What book are you reading? Keegan says on YouTube, he says hashtag free exotic Joe. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Kaylee says Netflix, definitely a must during this time. Kyle says I'm gonna post some drawings on Instagram soon. Sweet. All right, Carson. If you just now joined, we're talking about what is your lifesaver while being stuck at home. Like, what is the thing that you could not live without while being at home right now? Kaylee says exotic Joe for president. I hope he runs in 20. Well, I guess 2020 is about to come upon us, so it doesn't look like he's gonna be joining us this year. See, Cam says probably gonna jump back onto the vampire thriller I quit on a while ago. Yeah, is that Twilight? I don't know any other vampire thrillers other than Twilight. Called The Passage. Okay. Let's see. Mallory, Tyler, what have you guys been? What's been your lifesaver while being stuck at home? I don't know if you guys can chat on YouTube right now. I know you're watching on TV, but what's been your guys' lifesaver? And then my next question. Let's see. Oh, Kyle's gonna live stream. Okay, he's gonna live stream his drawings. And then Kaylee, Twilight is actually very well written novel. Okay, yeah. And then Mallory says each other. Oh, that's so sweet. So sweet. Next question is this. And being outside says being outside. Next question is this for those on Instagram and YouTube. How does it feel when you lose connection? So we talked about in the lesson this past week, we talked about how Jesus says he says that I am the true vine. Jesus tells us that we are the branches and that we need to stay attached to Jesus or stay connected to Jesus. And thinking of today in our culture and our society, we sometimes go through dead zones where we lose connection, and you can't text, you can't call, you can't get on Instagram, you can't do whatever. And so my question is, how do you guys feel when you lose connection? How do you guys feel when you can no longer text or Snapchat or call or listen to music? What is the feelings that go along with it? Oh, and Tyler said outside. Okay, I gotcha. Gabe on YouTube says it is frustrating, very frustrating when you lose connection. I get that. I get that. And then Keegan said isolated. Yeah, because we oftentimes, like when we use our phone to feel connected. It's almost our device to avoid FOMO, the fear of missing out. And when we don't have our phone on us, it's like, oh, we're missing something right now. Or when we go through a dead zone, when we lose connection, it's like I'm missing out on the opportunity to talk to this person or to see what so and so is doing in their life. So yeah, definitely isolated. And then we'll see on Instagram what we got. Kaylee says frustrated. Yeah, I agreed with Gabe. It's very frustrating when we can't do a lot of things we want to, and when we have Wi-Fi or perfect connection. It can be really annoying. Kyle says angry and sad. Yeah, because we expect our phones, we expect to have connection all the time, and it's frustrating and upsetting when we don't have that connection. We can't watch a YouTube video, we can't watch Netflix, whatever it may be. And then Kenzie says makes you feel lonely and sad. Yeah, back to that's kind of exactly what Keegan was talking about. How it makes us feel lonely or isolated, like we're all alone, and we've become accustomed to constantly being able to communicate with people wherever and whenever. And so when we don't have that constant connection, it can definitely be lonely or sad. Jason says annoying. Yeah, it's just annoying when you go through. I know when I'm like playing music on my phone and I go through a dead zone and it just cuts out. Like when you get in the moment and you're like really into the song or whatever and it just cuts out, I can't stand that. And then Owen says good out of school. So Owen doesn't he can be off his phone or out of connection. Yeah. Sometimes it's nice to like just get away from everyone and everything and like not have to like constantly be on your phone, because sometimes we get addicted to it. It's like we have to be checking on everyone and seeing what everyone's doing. So yeah, it definitely can be a good thing from time to time when we can't or we're forced to not be on our phones. And then Sawyer says definitely sad. Yeah, definitely agreeing with some of the rest of the responses. And Cam said on YouTube, even though we're with our family, we still feel isolated. Being outside helps, but you just want your to be with friends and video chatting, texting, and calling aren't the same. Yeah, there's definitely like that weird feeling of, even though we're still with our family and even though we can still talk with friends and still do this, we can still virtually meet. There's still that isolated feeling of not being able to be in person. There's something about like being in the same room with a group of people. I know, like even I just like to be around people. We don't even have to be talking about stuff, but just to hang out with people is something that we kind of crave. We want to be around people, and so it definitely is isolating, even when we have our family and we have devices that can call friends. When we don't have the opportunity to go out of our house and go hang out, it can definitely be it can definitely feel isolating when you're stuck in one spot. I get that. So the next question we have is this: when we're not connected with Jesus, or what happens when we're not connected with Jesus, or as he says in John chapter 15, Jesus says the vine. What happens when we're not connected to the vine, or we're not connected to Jesus? What does it do to us spiritually? How does it impact us when we're not connected with Jesus? And I'll start off for me as you guys think about this. For me, it's just there's a different feeling when I'm spending time with Jesus one day and maybe the next day I'm not spending as much time with Jesus. You can definitely feel a difference when you're connected one day and maybe not as connected the next day. Definitely on the days when I'm connected, I feel more joy filled and more peaceful and less worried about things of that this life throws at us. And so my question is, what happens when we're not connected to Jesus? When we, as the branch, we kind of separate ourselves from Jesus for a little bit, what does that do to us? So, okay, on Instagram, let's see, on Instagram, Mallory said that it leaves us feeling empty. We don't feel at peace. I'm going to see, Mallory, will you join us for a second? I'm going to see if you can to just talk about what you think. We'll see if this works. We're going to try to share Instagram Live. Hey, so what's up, guys? So go ahead. Okay. Go ahead and share just kind of what you guys.
Hold on a second.
Okay, you're good.
We have YouTube on too, and the timing was different.
Yeah, it's like 3 seconds off.
That was weird. Okay, can you hear us?
Yeah. So both of you guys can kind of answer this. What do you feel happens when you're not connected with Jesus?
Okay, so I can start. I just feel like I lose my peace, and when I'm not connected with Jesus, that's when I have anxiety. That's when I stress about things. That's when I get fearful over things in the world. And then also, I just feel off. It's like I'll go through my day, and it could be a great day, but I just feel off. Like something's not right, and I can't figure out what's not right. And sometimes, I just like lose sight of what's important, and it takes me till the end of the day to realize, oh yeah, I feel off because I didn't seek God today. No wonder I feel off.
Yeah, definitely.
It felt like kind of empty. You kind of answered everything else, but just that something's not normal or right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can. It's weird. Like it's hard to kind of explain that emptiness feeling of like you just can tell when one day you're connected with him, the other day you're not spending as much time, or maybe just like throughout the day you're not thinking about him, or you're not taking time to talk with Jesus. Later on, you can just look back and it's like, why did I feel like that? And you're like, oh, okay, it's because I wasn't attached to the vine, and spending time with that the life that he gives us. Definitely.
Absolutely.
Sweet. Well, thanks for sharing. Yeah, we'll bring you guys back on here in a little bit too.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, thanks for sharing the answer.
You're welcome.
All right. Okay, sweet. So, let's see. We'll go back to for those of you guys who are just joining us. We're talking about what does it feel like, or what happens when we lose connection with Jesus. We're talking about how Jesus says he's the true vine. He is the one who gives life. And so what happens when we lose that connection with him, maybe just for a day or so, or throughout your day, when you're not spending time talking with Jesus? What does that feel like to us on the inside? And so Kaylee said, I feel like I can't get anything right, and I feel extremely anxious, and when I'm not connected to Jesus. Yeah, you just definitely feel just kind of a weird anxiety about just everything. And then, yeah, Cam says, speaking metaphorically, we shrivel up when we're not on the vine. So in our lives, we can lean towards, in our lives, we lean towards worldly things and away from God, and the joy is gone. Yeah, and so like you just said, when a leaf or a branch falls off a tree, we know that it withers. We know that the life ceases from it. And so exactly, when we lose that connection, we're still living, but we're not truly living like Jesus. Jesus helps us gives us that strength, that peace, that everything that we need. And so, yeah, Carson says we lose our faith slowly but inevitably. Yeah, definitely. It's interesting. The more the less, I guess I should say, the less time we spend with Jesus, the less our faith grow. Our faith tends to decrease, I guess. And so it's kind of that you know that straight line of when the more or the less time we spend with Jesus, the less our faith grows. It's yeah, exactly, Carson. That's a good answer. Let's see. Kenzie says, for me, I lose sight of who I truly am. Yeah, exactly. You lose sight of your identity when we don't spend time with Jesus like we should. We're not connected like we should. We lose the identity of who we are. And so for those of you guys who are still kind of joining in throughout this, we're talking about what happens when we're not connected with Jesus. What happens when we lose that connection with the vine? And then on YouTube, let's see, YouTube. Keegan said, "You lose your way. Jesus sacrifices himself for us so that we didn't have to carry the burdens of our sins. When you're not connected to Jesus, you take everything on your own shoulders, and it becomes too much." Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly right. We see that when Jesus talks about how, "Come to me, all who are burdened and weary, and I will give you rest." And when we don't go to Jesus, we don't give him our burdens. When we're constantly worrying and constantly trying to be fulfilled from things outside of Jesus, the burdens just grow and they build up, and it's like it's just all on our shoulders, and it's too much. It's too much for us to carry and us to hold on our own. So, yeah, Keegan, I like that answer a lot. And then Kyle says, start to feel differently, and it makes me feel worse. Yeah, just like what Mallory feels worse afterwards. Yeah, definitely like Mallory and Tyler were saying, you can just feel that difference when we are not as connected with Jesus, with the branch or with the vine. And so the next question we have, those are all great answers. We got a couple more people joining. What's up, guys? Next question we have is, if you had to pick one thing, what do you say you spend the majority of your time doing? So thinking of your daily routine, and maybe now thinking of what our daily routine looks like now since the quarantine stuff. What is it that you spend the majority of your time doing? I'll go ahead and start. For me, I feel like the majority of my time is spent on either my phone, on like social media or something like that, just kind of mindlessly scrolling through stuff, or video games or something like that. I feel like I'm constantly, when I don't have anything to do, I got to be doing something. And so that's what I would say for me. On YouTube, let's see. Gabe says that school and coding games takes up a majority of his time. And yeah, school right now, since you guys still have to do classwork and everything, school definitely takes up a majority of the time. So Keegan says schoolwork too. So yeah, and then on Instagram, we have Tyler says work. Work takes up a majority of the time, especially probably around this time with tax season and everything. I could only imagine. And then Kaylee says she's on her phone way more than she'd like to admit. That's like, yeah, I definitely agree with you, because you know how you get those notifications at the end of the week saying you spent this much time on your phone. And when I see that pop up, I'm like, man, that's awful. Like that's like over a third of my day is spent on my phone. It's bad. I totally agree with you there. Back on YouTube, Gabe says though he's been working on his YouTube channel a lot. So yeah, you have kind of your different hobbies that you've been doing during this time. Kenzie says schoolwork. Abby says she's on her phone. Yeah, I would say that's kind of a lot of us, especially during this time. Gracie says hello, Gracie. Cam says watching YouTube a lot and schoolwork, unfortunately. And yeah, YouTube is definitely one of those things like you can just go down a wormhole of videos, and it's like you can almost never get bored on YouTube because there's so much stuff on there. Kyle says art, social media, etc. Yeah, Kyle, you got a lot of drawings going on and video game projects you're working on. So yeah, I get that. And hey, Sydney's on here. Sydney says schoolwork and Snapchat. Yeah, schoolwork seems to be the majority of what people are doing during this time, and Snapchat, social media. Yeah, yep, that's definitely something that I feel like a lot of people are spending a lot of time on. So yeah, those are all things when you sometimes think back on your day or your week, you can think, man, I was spending a lot of time doing blank. And so it's good to kind of just be aware of like, what are you spending a majority of your time doing? And this is my next question. We talked about in the lesson how Jesus says, I am the true vine. And he says the word to remain in him. And one of the things he says is that he prunes us. He prunes those who are producing fruit, who are in Jesus, followers of Jesus. He prunes them, and what that is cutting back on things or cutting things out of your life, or when we think of a tree and we think of a branch and a fruit tree, it's cutting off of those unnecessary limbs and leaves so that that fruit can grow. And so when thinking about in our lives physically, what are some things that we may need to eliminate or maybe cut back on? When you can think of, what's a majority of what are you spending a majority of your time doing? And not like schoolwork and stuff like that, but what are some things that you could cut back on that you may think I don't need to be spending that amount of time doing blank or whatever it may be. So what is that for you? What is something in your life where you feel like you need to prune, you need to eliminate, or maybe cut back on? So go ahead and reply with that. What is that for you? For me, I think it's not cutting out things in my life, but it's definitely cutting back on some things. I think that, I could be maybe spending less time watching Netflix or playing video games or on social media, and I could be doing more beneficial things like reading or doing something creative, doing something fun, and picking up a new hobby. Sydney says comparing herself to others. Yeah, that's definitely a big one, and sometimes we spend way too much time doing it. If we're being honest, I can think of a lot of times, and social media does that. When we're on social media and we compare ourselves, we look at how other people are living, how other people are doing things, and we get envious of it, we get jealous, or we say, oh, they're not as good as I am, and we compare ourselves, and that can take up a lot of time too. Kenzie says, I don't need to be spending the amount of time worrying, and instead giving it to God. And yeah, worry is one of those things where when you get into a kind of that like snowball of worrying, it's that snowball effect of it just keeps piling on. You're worried about one thing and it's the next thing, and it just keeps going. And so I would definitely agree with that. Worrying is a big thing that we spend a lot of our time doing, especially during this time of the coronavirus and everything. Like we worry about sometimes what tomorrow may look like and what next week or a month from now may look like. And so I definitely agree with you, Kenzie. That's a good answer. Reagan says trying to stop worrying about things. Trying to stop worrying about the things I pray to God for because I don't see the change instantly. Yeah. So so worrying when we don't see God instantly answering our prayers, Reagan says, and yeah, that's a big one too. Looking more specifically at what are some of the things we worry about, and that's a good one, because I feel like a lot of times we all have those worries of when we bring something to God. We're like, we expect it, God's gonna answer us right then and there, and He's gonna give us what we want or need right then and there. And a lot of times, our timing and God's timing doesn't match up, and so that's a good thing to realize, when to let God take control of the situation, and let God's plan outrule our plan. That's definitely a good one, Reagan. Cam says being on his phone too much, checking it when there's nothing to check. That's definitely relatable. And also worrying about spending too much, or worrying about how to spend my time, which takes more time than I'm worrying about. Yeah, definitely. When we're on our phone, a lot of times it's stuff that we've already seen or gone through, and we don't need to be on it anymore. And that's a big one. And then, when we worry about what we're going to do throughout the day, and we're taking up time worrying. And so, yeah, that worry is a big one that I think we all can relate to. So yeah, that's a good answer, Cam. And then Kyle says he'd say YouTube, been binge watching Doom Eternal gameplay, bikers getting caught in trouble and stuff. Yeah, there's all types of stuff out there on YouTube that we can just get lost in. And so, yeah, that's a good thing to recognize, Kyle. I like that answer. And then any on YouTube, do we have anyone, what are some of the things that you may need to eliminate or cut back on in your life, that you may have realized in the past week or so, or a couple weeks? Do we have any answers on YouTube? We'll wait and see a little bit, see if we get some responses there too. The next question is this: when or Keegan, sorry. Okay, on YouTube, Keegan says YouTube. Yeah, definitely a big time absorber, because those videos just pile on, and you can watch them forever and realize like 5 hours later that you didn't get out of bed, or you didn't put your phone down at all during that time. So that's a big one. Next question is this: why do you think pruning things out of your life can be painful? So when you think of what pruning is cutting out something, and cutting out can be painful. So why do you think it's sometimes hard for us, or it can be painful to prune those things out of our lives? So some of you guys said YouTube. Some of you said worrying. Some of you said being on your phone too much, or comparing yourself to others. So why do you think it's hard or painful to stop those things? Kaylee says we get attached to things that aren't necessarily good to us. And yeah, exactly. It's kind of that addictive behavior that when we get caught up in something for so long, it's hard to stop that rhythm of whatever that may be. So if you're constantly worrying, it's easy to start that worry process, but it's hard to get out of it. And so, yeah, you get too attached, and it's hard to quit it. Reagan says that it's hard or painful because sometimes you become dependent on that one thing. And exactly, like, we live in a world where we almost can't live without phones, or can't live without technology. And so it can be hard to cut some of that out of our lives when we need our phones to communicate with people. We need our phones to do our schoolwork, or whatever it may be. And that can be really hard when we get dependent on that stuff. So yeah, that's a good answer. And then Kenzie says because it's hard to get it's hard to let go of things you love. And yeah, it's exactly right. When you get in a habit of doing something, or when you maybe it's Netflix. You love watching Netflix, and it's hard to stop some of those things you really enjoy doing. It can be challenging. And Abby says we like to hold on to the things we love. Exactly. It's hard to let go. We get so used to the way we do things, and it's hard to maybe say, okay, I'm gonna cut back on the number of hours I spend on my phone. When you get so used to being in a schedule and being in a rhythm of doing things a certain way, it can be hard. Exactly. Mallory says we are looking to things outside of God to bring us satisfaction and comfort. It's not wrong to find comfort in things of this world, but it's sinful to put them on the throne of your heart. Yeah, definitely. Mallory, do you and Tyler want to go live again real quick and kind of just explain a little bit more of what you guys are kind of saying there? I'll see if you guys want to join us again real quick. Hey, here we are again. So yeah, you kind of answered it, but could you just talk about it a little bit more? Why is it so hard to sometimes cut back on things in our lives that maybe we're like used to doing, or maybe we love doing?
I think, lots of times we do activities that are not sinful, are not wrong in and of themselves, but we just kind of use them as a numbing agent or as a comfort, to comfort us in the way that God was meant to comfort us, or to bring us satisfaction and joy. And so it's really easy to take those things and get, I guess, addicted to them, and spend so much time and focus on it that you're really pushing out God from your heart. And before you know it, like, yeah, watching TV in and of itself isn't bad, but if that's what your thoughts are centered on, and you wake up in the morning excited to watch TV and not to spend time with God, like, that's when it really becomes a sin issue or an idol in your life, I think.
Yeah, definitely. That's a good answer.
I think, like, you obviously like those things. You started doing them, so it's hard to give those things up. I know that's what a lot of kids said too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Once you start something and get in a rhythm of doing something, it's hard to quit that habit. Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Sweet.
And just habit change in general is really hard for us as people.
Yeah. When we start doing something one way, we don't like we don't like change, and so when
even if we know that change can lead to a better quality of life for us, or we're going to feel better because of changes, I think it just can be really scary to make.
Yeah, definitely. Well, sweet. Yeah, thanks for hopping on and answering again. That was good. Well, we'll ask the next question, and I'm continue on. So thanks for hopping on. We may bring you back on again here in a minute. All right, we'll see ya. Oh, there we go. Okay, so we'll go back to what some of you guys said. So Megan said it can be painful because we may not be prepared to let it go. Yeah. So when we have something in our life that we need to cut back on, or we may just need to remove, when we're not prepared and ready for it, it can be really tough. When we sometimes need time, or maybe gradually cut back on something. If we're not ready to, it can be really hard. So that's a good answer, Megan. Cam says, especially when we're talking or taking out something that has taken so much time, we don't know what to do with that new time and want to go back to it because it's what we know, especially when it's something you know. Yeah, when you cut that out and you're like, okay, what do I do now? When you cut those things out of your life, you're kind of like, okay, I have this extra time. What am I going to do with that time now? And so it can be hard because you want to go back to those old habits. So exactly. Carson says, for the same reason we started doing those things, we like the things we do and don't want to stop them. Yeah, it's you do those things for a reason. We're on our phone for so much time for a reason. We're watching Netflix for so long for a reason. There's a reason behind it because we like to do it. And like Mallory said, those things in and of themselves are not bad, but it's when we take it to another level and put it kind of in the center of our lives, and we spend way too much time on it. That's when it can kind of become an issue for us. Got a lot of people that have been joining. So for all you guys who are joining, glad you guys hopped on. We're talking about pruning things out of our lives and how Jesus tells us that we need to be attached to the vine. We need to be attached to him in order to have life and have that true life. And sometimes it causes us for us to cut things out, or maybe just limit things in our life that we spend way too much time on. And so why is it painful sometimes? Why is it hard for us to cut things out of our lives or limit things? And on YouTube, we had some answers as well. Keegan says, you feel like you lose a piece of yourself and you don't know how to replace it. Exactly. Like when you get rid of those things, we have like I think it was Cam that just said it. When we have so much time, we're like, what do I do with all that time? How do I replace it? And so that can be hard as well. And then Kyle says, a lot of us don't think it will, but our attachments can consume our lives and keep us from doing other things. Video games is one of those things for him. And that's exactly right. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but it limits us from doing other things. It keeps us from spending time with our family. These things can keep us from being around people, or can keep us from growing with God and doing the things that we were intended to do. So exactly, those are good answers. We have just one more question, or let's see. Here's another question. Why is pruning things out of our lives necessary for us spiritually? So why does Jesus call us to cut back on things in our life, or to altogether eliminate some of the things that we do? Why does Jesus bring up this thought and this idea in the sense of him talking about pruning, him talking about cutting out and getting rid of? Why is that a necessity for us spiritually? Or how does that impact our relationship with Jesus? What do you guys think? For me, okay. Oh, Kaylee said, so that we can grow closer to God. And yeah, I think you got it right on the head. When we are constantly, when things are taking up our space and our life, we're getting distracted from hearing God. We're getting distracted from spending time with God. And so in order to get closer to God, then we need to cut back on some of those things, eliminate some of those things. Gabe on YouTube says that some of the things can stop us from being close with God. And that's exactly right. When you think of when Jesus talks about that I am the vine, you are the branches, and if we're going to bear fruit, then we have to cut back and we have to give space for the fruit to grow. And in order to do that, you need to cut back on some of those things. And that's exactly right. Abby says that we have to prune things out because those things take up time instead of spending our time with him. Yeah, you think of, that's exactly right, Abby. You think of when we're on our phones at night. A lot of times we can spend an hour or two before we go to bed going through social media or something like that, YouTube, when we could be taking that time to read and to pray, even if it's for 5 to 10 minutes, even if it's just a short amount of time, and you kind of add on to that. Some of the things that we spend time on take up way too much time when we could be spending that time to grow closer with him. Mallory says, you have to make room to grow closer with God, and that's exactly right. It's something that we have to take into account ourselves. We have to be the one to say, I'm not gonna be on my phone at this time, or I'm not gonna watch this next episode. We have to do that on our own. We have to make that time. But it's Jesus that gives us that help and that strength to do it for him. And Mackenzie says to realize God is the way, the truth, and the life. Yeah, we talked about that last week, that Jesus is that one way, and that the way is not watching hours and hours of Netflix. The way and the truth and the life is not being on our phone constantly. That all comes from Jesus, and so we need to give him that time, so we can get that direction, we can get that guidance and truth in our lives. Mallory says removing barriers that stand in the way of a real relationship with God. Exactly, cutting out those unnecessary things so we can grow closer to God. And Cam says we are supposed to follow in Jesus' footsteps, even he did, and he did this. He went in the desert for what, 40 days, so he could get away from distractions. He constantly went into isolation to pray. Yeah, you see, Jesus, he does that. He went into the desert to fast for 40 days, to cut back on food. He fasted for 40 days and 40 nights to say, I don't need food to live. I need God to live. And so that's a really good idea, Cam, of Jesus. He fasted. He kind of removed himself from people at times to spend time with God. And that's something that we can follow in his footsteps doing, is we can fast from things. We can cut back things, and it doesn't have to be, I'm done watching Netflix forever, but it may be like, hey, this week I'm not going to watch more than 1 or 2 episodes a day. I'm not going to spend but 30 minutes playing video games, or whatever that may be. But that's a really good answer, that if we're going to follow Jesus' footsteps, then he fasted and he kind of cut back on things in his life, and we're called to do the same. So yeah, those are all great answers. And so my final answer for our small group tonight is this: what is one thing that you're going to do differently based upon this lesson? How are you going to use this lesson to change maybe something you do this week? How are you going to walk the walk? We talked about today. We've talked about how Jesus is the one who gives life, and that we sometimes have things that distract us from our life with Christ and our relationship with Christ, and sometimes we need to cut back, or maybe altogether just get rid of some things in order to grow closer to God. And so, what are you going to do differently this week, based upon what we talked about tonight and based upon the lesson that we had earlier? I know I, for one, am going to I'm probably going to cut back on the number of minutes I'm on my phone. Instead of, as I'm going to bed, instead of just scrolling through social media for the next 30 minutes, I'm going to do something that I haven't done in a while, like drawing, or maybe or just reading a new book, picking up something new, and cutting back on some of those the time I'm on my phone. I'm not necessarily going to altogether eliminate being on my phone, because it's not a terrible thing to be on our phone, but I'm going to try to cut back on some of that. And so for me, I'm going to try to, at night especially, is when I usually get on my phone a lot. I'm going to try to cut back on the time I'm on my phone at night. So that's one thing I'm going to do. What about you guys on YouTube and Instagram? What's something you're going to do this week differently, or you're going to change based upon our talks tonight and our lesson? Sawyer says that he's going to try and read a part of the Bible and pray when he wants to get on social media. And that's a really good thing. When you, especially, I don't know if this is what you meant, but when you say, when I want to get on social media, instead of giving into that desire to get on social media, realizing that spending time with God and reading God's word is a lot more beneficial. And so and whenever that desire comes up, go straight to reading or straight to talking with God. That's a great thing to do. Mackenzie says, take time out of the daily routine to pray and to journal and to become closer to God. And that's a good one too. We kind of talked about journaling last week. I think Mallory or maybe Allie, someone brought up that idea of they like to journal and write stuff down. And I've started doing that too some, and it's a great way to kind of get things off your mind and to honestly just grow closer to God, because I like to write prayers in the journal or whatever it may be, but that's a really good one, Kenzie. And then Cam says to work diligently on homework so he has more time with family, which also means less time on my phone, which distracts me from my schoolwork. Yeah, and we should take advantage of this time and spending time with our families. We don't often get times like this, and we probably won't get a time like this ever again. And so use this time to hang out with your family and to get the schoolwork done quickly so you can have more time to play games or to just sit and talk or watch a show with your family. That's a great answer. Kaylee says, trying to cut back on some of the things that will distract her from Jesus, trying to not be on her phone as much, and in the times when I feel like I need to be on it, I'll pray. Again, that's a good thing to do when you feel like, right now I really want to be on my phone. Using that time instead of giving into that desire, saying, I'm gonna pray about it. I'm gonna pray and talk with God, and instead of maybe scrolling through the Instagram or something like that. That's a good answer. Kyle says spending less time on distracting stuff. Yeah, spending time on stuff that isn't really beneficial. It's just distracting. Yeah, cutting out on that is a good answer. Abby says going to cut back on the amount of time I spend on my phone. That will make me finish my homework quicker and have more time to spend with my family and be outside. Yeah, another good one. Getting the work done quickly, getting the schoolwork done quickly so that you can have the free time to be with your family and to go outside. I know that today was nice and that we're going to have a couple nice days. Hopefully the rain stays away, but to go outside and do something fun, go on a walk, go ride your bike or whatever it may be, whatever you like to do, spend time outside. That's a good answer. And then Mallory says yes to journaling. That will change your mindset and provide free therapy every day. Yeah, it's definitely amazing. I mean, I never thought journaling was something I would like to do. But I really like to write, and I really like to write out prayers, or maybe it's write out just how my day went, or just draw, or whatever it is. Do those things because it is free therapy. It's a way to get that all off your chest and write it down, write it out. So those are good. And then on YouTube we have a couple. Keegan says to get ahead on schoolwork instead of getting things done, and also talk to God more throughout the day. Getting that work done and out of the way is really good idea so that you can have more time to be with family and to spend time with God. Definitely a good one. And then lastly, Gabe says, well, since coding takes up a third of my day, I've been taking a break from it for a while. And yeah, Gabe's already doing. He's already on it. And when you realize there's something in your life that you may spend too much time doing, to cut back on that, it is really important. And it's not the idea of we need to altogether eliminate our phones or altogether get rid of video games or get rid of Netflix. Like, that's not the idea, as kind of Mallory and Tyler were talking about, but it's the idea of limiting those things, pruning those things, cutting back so that we can be more fruitful, that the Spirit can move through us more, and that we can grow closer to God. So any other last answers, last comments before we kind of wrap things up? It's been about an hour. This has been a great another really good small group time, guys. Thanks for coming on and joining us today. I'm glad that we could get YouTube working for some of the guys who don't have Netflix. That's a great opportunity, and I think we had some really good discussion, and and some really good group time. I know it sucks. I miss all you guys a lot. I miss being able to hang out at church and have Sunday nights, have 9-12. Really stinks not being able to do that right now, but I'm thankful for the technology and the ability to still talk and have discussion like this. And so thanks to everyone for hopping on. It's been a great hour of chatting. So Keegan says, Cam, stay away from the sports park. All right. So we're going to close up. Mallory says, we love you all and miss you. We're proud of you all for the great discussion answers and for taking up the time to participate in virtual youth group. From Tyler and Mallory. Thanks guys for taking some of the time out of your day to do this and to still meet. I know it can just be as easy to you're already not doing a whole lot and going out, and it can be easy enough to just put on some Netflix or something. And so I'm thankful for all you guys for taking the time out of your day to do this. Hey, Sydney is waving at us. But thanks again, guys. I'll go ahead and pray us out of here, and we'll get on, and you guys can enjoy the rest of your Sunday night. So let's pray. God, I want to thank you for allowing us to be able to meet. It kind of stinks that we can't be in person and we can't hang out like we would on a normal Sunday night. But I'm thankful for this opportunity that we get to still discuss and still learn and grow together, God. And I couldn't imagine what we'd be doing if it was 20, 30 years ago when we don't have any of this, Lord. And so that would even be kind of more isolating and lonely. But I'm thankful for this technology and this time. And God, I pray that we can learn and grow and be able to prune things out of our life, be able to cut back and limit on some of the things that are distracting us from you, and some of the things, God, that are taking up too much time, Lord, that we don't need. We don't need to be spending this much time. That we can just give that time to you and to do things that you have created us to do and that you have instilled in our hearts that we love to do, Lord. So help us to do that. Help us to find more ways to spend time with you, because we have all the time in the world now being at home. And so I pray that we can just use this time to be in relationship with you and to read about you and your word and to grow with each other and to continue to communicate and hang out. We love you and we praise you. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right. Oh. All right. Well, we're out of here, guys. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your afternoon, your night. So thanks for everyone for being on, and we'll talk to you guys later. Oh, ended.